welcome to Morning Laziness. This is Nilima Kayes, and today we are bringing to you an interview session with Ms. Salma El-Yassir. Morning Laziness is an online magazine dedicated to women. It showcases various articles, personal life stories, and interview sessions on different matters concerning women. And today, our interviewee, Ms. Salma, happens to be the co-founder of Womaneze, a traveler, a writer, and a coach. So let us welcome our interviewee. Hello, Salma.
Hello, it's nice to meet you.
How are you doing today?
I'm very well, thank you, Nilima.
So before moving to the question, since you're on board with our morning laziness, how was your morning today?
My morning has been good. It's snowing out here. I'm in Montreal today, and so pretty cold.
Right. So could you give us a glimpse of your entrepreneurial journey, your college, study, and perhaps what motivates you to continue studying and researching even at the age of 50?
Well, thank you for saying that I'm age 50. I'm actually 61, so I appreciate that. My background is in economics. I did my economics degree at the London School of Economics. I then went on to do a master's in public health. And more recently, about 4 years ago, I graduated from the Harvard Kennedy School with a master's in public administration. My career encompassed healthcare and working for not-for-profits in the development sector. I worked on gender issues and particularly women's health. And so I've always been interested in this arena. During my career, I had a lot of responsibilities, my home life, etc. So it's only now that my co-founder and myself feel like we can give all our energies to creating something that serves women.
Interesting. So did you find it challenging to again go back to the school life and start researching and putting more focus on studying again? And how did you overcome those?
I'm a life learner. I've always loved learning new things, and I, in all honesty, did not have too much of a problem going back to. The most recent one was 3-4 years ago when I went back to school at Harvard. I was the oldest one in my cohort, but I didn't really feel it. I have a whole bunch of new friends from all over the world who are as old as my kids, and I love that. It's been a wonderful journey. Of course, a lot of people, first of all, think you're crazy. They think that maybe when you're older, you can't learn as much, but it's a wonderful way to stay young, to keep your mind young. So, yeah.
Right. No matter how older you become, your mind always remains young, always eager to learn more, right?
I hope so.
Now, moving on to some questions about Womaneze. So what exactly is Womaneze all about?
So Womaneze is a company that helps women navigate menopause and regain control naturally. My co-founder and myself, when we were going through it ourselves, were aghast at the fact that there was nothing being said about it. We were both blindsided by it, so we didn't really know until we were in the middle of it. And it seemed crazy that something that affects all women in the world will affect every single woman is not talked about. It's something that is taboo, that is kind of women are expected to kind of go into a corner and quietly deal with it when it affects a woman both physically, mentally, and from a societal perspective. And so we were pretty annoyed by that, and that's why we decided to create it. So Womaneze does two things. It has created a community. We now have over 50,000 women in our community, but it also created an app because we look at ourselves as a Femtech startup. It created an app to help women with hot flashes, which is the number one symptom in menopause. So about 80% of women going through menopause will have hot flashes. So we decided to focus on that to begin with. And we are currently expanding the app into a more holistic coverage of menopause symptoms. I want to emphasize here that we approach menopause as a natural transition, not as an illness, and not as a medical condition. Obviously, some women will need medical attention, and there are certain, definitely we always encourage women to have a medical checkup, to speak to their doctors, but it is a transition. It's like puberty in reverse. So when you go through puberty, it's not regarded as an illness. It's a difficult time, but it's not an illness. The same thing with menopause, but in reverse.
It seems a very meaningful contribution to our society of women.
We hope so. We feel that it is about time that women started talking to each other about it, because this seems to be something that women don't want to discuss, are ashamed of, and there's no reason to be ashamed. It's a natural transition. In fact, if I can tell you that right now in the world, 12% of humanity is in menopause. And women, for example, in the US, 6,000 women every single day go into menopause. That's a huge thing. So, and it's affecting, women everywhere. And so it needs to be talked about and demystified and normalized, because women going through it often feel like they're going crazy, that, what's happening to them is only happening to them. Some of them think they're getting dementia because they're forgetting. It's a whole host of things. So it's important to normalize it. It's important to talk about it.
Very true. Even today, on different parts of our world, people do consider menstruation or menopause as a taboo. And I guess it's time to change that. Yeah.
Yes.
So how can womenese help women to navigate through this very phase of menopause? And what are some of its features that perform the same function?
Okay, so Womaneze does three things really. It creates community, and through community, we give support to each other and to women. We give information. So we have very informative blogs that are steeped in science and research. Every blog takes, hours and hours of research to bring bona fide information to women. And thirdly, we create tools and the app, which is called Hot Flash Help app, and it's available on both Apple and Android. This app helps women manage their symptoms, and particularly hot flashes at the moment. The way it does that is it says to the woman, okay, science says here are X number of triggers that make hot flashes worse or can trigger hot flashes. And so because every woman is different and will experience menopause in a different way, the best thing you can do for yourself is to try to figure out what your triggers are. And the app helps you to do that. So it's a natural, it's not, we stay away, in Womaneze, we stay away from hormone replacement therapy, which is the other way to go. So there are two ways to go. Either you go hormone replacement therapy, which is taking hormones to keep your hormone levels up. And that, yes, helps with symptoms, but it has a lot of other issues associated with it, especially if you've had cancer or you have cancer risk in the family, etc. And the holistic way, which is using more natural ways of addressing your symptoms, which is the way we try to help women to find out what exactly are their triggers and how exactly they can try to help themselves.
That was quite informative. Since you said that you had also traveled through this very phase called menopause, how would you like to share your experience with this difficult stage called menopause, and how did you learn about the symptoms?
Well, I mean, because we have such a large community of women, we hear all kinds of stories. The one thing I will say is that every woman will experience it in her particular way. So, for example, some women will have hot flashes, other women will not have hot flashes. You have about 10% of women or so who will go through menopause without any problems at all, right? Like they will hardly feel it. But the majority do go through some symptoms. There are 47 different associated symptoms with menopause. The most recurrent are hot flashes, night sweats, insomnia, mood swings, really bad mood swings that feel like a depression. You can have feminine issues, in the intimate relation with your partner. There are many, so these are the major problems in menopause. Most women report that they didn't really realize they were going through menopause until they were smack in the middle of it. So what usually starts to happen is that the periods become irregular, and women will either think, okay, maybe this is stress or something else, and so they don't pay a lot of attention. But that's where it really begins, and people have this image that menopause is these, kind of golden girls, the really old and wrinkly women who are in med. It actually starts in the 40s. But it intensifies slowly until you really get hit by the symptoms. Personally, I had very severe insomnia, among other issues, but from somebody who could sleep with no problems at all, I was up half the night, which made me really foggy and unable to function properly, and then of course you become a lot less patient because of it, and so it's all kind of interrelated. And a whole host. I, for example, did not have hot flashes. My co-founder had severe hot flashes. She was the COO of a bank. She'd be in a board meeting and suddenly she would have a hot flash. It's in the middle of winter and she wants to open the windows. The male colleagues just pretend that they don't notice. So it's not just the physical symptoms is what I'm trying to say. It's also all the societal aspects of it that are related. How a woman looks at herself, how others look at her. And so women grudgingly admit to menopause. But it always, when I speak with younger women, it always feels like they think, oh, this has nothing to do with me. This is, like way far into the future. And it really isn't.
Right. Loss of fertility is like a stamp of an expiration date imprinted on women. How would you like to comment on this statement?
This is a very important part of the societal issues that I refer to, because women, unfortunately, not only in developing countries, but also in the developed world, so-called, women are valued really for their looks and for their fertility, primarily. Not only, but this is a big part of who a woman is or how people think about women. So in menopause, of course, you're beginning to lose both these things. You lose fertility, this is the biggest thing in menopause, but you also begin to show signs of aging, wrinkles, gray hair, which are related to aging. And so if we put the value on women, on their looks and their fertility, of course, menopause is going to be something that women don't want to be associated with. If we think of menopause as a transition into a stage where a woman is, and a lot of report this. So the women in postmenopause, because they're much older now, their children have grown, if they have children, they probably have reached the peak of their career, etc., feel a sense of empowerment and feel a sense of, you know what, this is my time in life. And so it all depends on how you choose to look at this transition. If you ascribe to the way that people value women, then of course you're going to feel that this is not such a great time. If you choose to think of your value as a woman as so much more than your looks and fertility, it can be quite liberating.
Right. As a daughter, how do you think one child extends support to their mother who's going through this very phase called menopause to help her fight this battle together?
This is a very important question, because the young women I speak to will tell me, oh, I realized now my mom was going through menopause. She was going through this tough period. She was snappy, she was angry. She got these periods of this depression and we didn't know what was going on. And of course, because there's no conversation about this issue, the woman doesn't feel like she can ask for help. And one of the things we encourage women is to talk about what they're going through with their partners and with their family and with their coworkers when appropriate. But to basically ask for help and say, look, I'm going through a really tough time. Because if the kids just suddenly see this, this mom who's upset about everything, who's, impatient, who loses her temper, they don't understand what's going on, right? So it behooves the younger women are much, your generation is, I think, much wiser than mine. And they are able to understand these issues in a much more, how shall I put it, a modern way. So I would suggest that a girl or a young woman who sees her mother going through that kind of thing, particularly manifested in mood swings and impatience and stuff like that, to ask, what's going on with you, mom? Is this something you can talk to me about? How can I help you? What do you need from me to make this easier for you? And that starts a conversation because it's important also for the daughter to understand the experience of menopause for her mom, because guess what? This will probably be a template for what she would go through down the line.
Right. And that was a very good compliment for us, the Gen Z. And indeed, the reason why I again took up this topic, menopause, for many articles and many interviews, was the fact that I wanted to know more about it. I wanted to research more about this. My mom has not gone through the phase, but she's about to. So if I could learn more about the symptoms, maybe I could help her out through this. And I don't want her to do this alone. So that was one of the reasons again.
You know, if I may say one thing, that validation is something very important. So when you're going through a rough time, if you have somebody kind of put their hand on your shoulder and say, I know this is tough, I feel it, you know, how can I be helpful? Just that in itself is helpful. So just the validation that I see you, I understand, and I'm willing to do something to help in itself is helpful. So yeah.
Right. So how can womenese can bring a change in a woman's daily life?
As I mentioned before, one of the biggest issues with menopause is that a lot of women don't know that they're going through it. They feel, for example, if you're getting insomnia and you can't sleep, you think about everything else but. You know, you think maybe I'm under stress, maybe my work is you know, whatever, and you're struggling with insomnia. You go to your doctor and you tell him or her, I have insomnia, here's a sleeping pill, or do this or do that. But nobody connects the dots. So what we try to do is to connect the dots and say, look, this is part of this experience and you're not going crazy, and you have brain fog because you're not sleeping and because your hormones are going all over the place. This is happening to you because of this and that and the other thing. And so this puts it in a context of, oh, okay, this is normal. And just by normalizing helps you to deal better with whatever it is. Not going to make it go away, but it gives you the tools. Knowledge is a tool, right? Knowledge is a tool. Understanding what's going on with you helps you put it in context. You don't think you're going crazy because you can't remember words, because you know that the hormonal changes cause this, and this is only temporary and it will go away. So if you can see the light at the end of the tunnel and you understand that this is just a phase, it's just a transition, you can deal with it a lot better. So information, as I said, information, support, and tools.
Right. So on that note, we have come to the end of this interview session. I would like to thank the audience for watching the entire session, and thank you, Ms. Salma, for joining us today. Your meaningful advices and resources more about womenese is truly going to help the audience to navigate through this very phase called menopause. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.